So, hi everybody and welcome back to the Unreal Engine 5 full game tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video, let's see, 28. And in this video, we will create a save game for the HighScore. So we have already created a save game in our last video, but now we set up our HighScore, we compare our HighScore function, and then we will save and load this with our save game and load game. And before we do this one, let's switch fast to itch.io because I said I won't be finished with this game before this epic mega game starts, and you see I have only 60 hours left. That's very less, and I hope you already joined here and will participate in this epic mega jam so that you can practice what it means with short time to create a game. But careful, you have only 7 days in this mega jam, so you should start from the first day with full power. That's my advice. And with that said, let's go to our game now and go fast to the overview. So we finished this one. We are here in the gameplay section. In gameplay section, we finished a lot of things. We are now here in gameplay coding. In gameplay coding, there are several subsections which I have not listed now here, but normally you have here also another task, and there you have your sub list for this section here. And in this video we are creating now our HighScore, which means when I start this one, that this HighScore, we will set this one up and we will save this one, so that you see that when I stop here and quit, now it's my HighScore 18, and when I start again, you can see my HighScore is 18. But if I don't reach this HighScore, for example, I die too fast like here, and I play again, now it's 56, that the HighScore stays 18. That's our setup for today. But before that, there is one more thing which I have to do fix fast, which I missed to explain you when we create the obstacles, because the obstacles which you can see right now when I start the game here, they don't die, which means when we watch here on the outliner, I already fixed it, but normally they don't die, which means these actors here in the outliner grow endlessly till you die. So to fix this, what we can do, it's there are different kind of solutions. I used, of course, the easiest solution, which is you go to your game folder, you go to your obstacle, and this is the obstacle which will be spawned, and you double click on it. And what I do is just, instead of make a collision box and say destroy actor and all this kind of stuff, we don't need this because there is a built-in feature in this blueprint which we can use. So in obstacle, you go here to the details panel and write just lifespan, initial lifespan, and I set my initial lifespan for 5. For example, if I set it only to 2, that will not work. You can test it. You can see they are spawned, and after 2 seconds they are destroyed. And you test this, so I set a little bit more. I set it, where is this? Here's my obstacle, and here is this one. I set it to 5 and I tested this, and that's it what we need. So a very simple solution for that. So you can see when we have this one, and I go here a little bit out, the obstacles are destroyed a little bit down the road here. You can see here they are destroyed. That's nice. So that's the solution for these obstacles, which means I will have here all time a constant 25 actors or so, like this. You will see this in a moment. 25, 26 or so. They get all time destroyed. So that's very nice for performance. So that was very important. Yeah, there are probably something which I miss also anywhere else. We will find them during test phases, but right now let's go and create the score system. So I click away this obstacle, and before we go to the score system, let's jump into our save game object, which we created in our last game. So we go here to the save game object, here to save game, then you click here on variables and you create a variable. I called it SV for save game HighScore, because I have a HighScore in game, which I mean I need it in my game, and this one is the HighScore which is saved. in the save game object. So I call this isv, and the default value, you can compile this and set this one to an integer, or if you want to even have decimal points, you can set it to float or anything else what you like. Anyway, I set full numbers, and my default value after compiling this one here is 0. This is not so important because this will be overwritten anyway, but you can set it to 0 and you will see it in a moment. That's the first step, and that's all what we need, because in my case I use only one value which I want save, is this HighScore, and which I want load later, it's this HighScore. Of course, if you have more things like lives or other coins or other objects, put this all here in the variable section and load them when you need. So the next step, this is done. What we need to do is we need now to define where we load this and where we call this and all this kind of stuff. So where we load this, first of all, we go back to our game mode. So because we created the save game object in my game mode. So I click here, this is my game mode, I open this up, and you see the section here, event begin play. There I set up this load game in my last video, and in my last video I had this strange comment here where I said load data here, and this load data we will fill, and here save data here, this one we will fill now. But before we can fill, we need of course create some thing to do this, because we can't do it instantly. There are some setups. So what the setups are, I show you now. We go back to event graph, and let's see if I need here a setup in this place. It looks not like that. The only thing what we need here is to create a HighScore, and this one I call normal HighScore, also without a SV, because this is the HighScore which I use in this game, and you can compare to the other one that was in my save game object. So this is the HighScore which will be set later, and we will use for load data. And what you do is just create here a variable, call it HighScore like I did here, set integer, and that's it. No, that's not it. Then one more step. After you did this, then it looks like this. Compile this, and then you can set a default value. For example, let's set it very low at start, 10. And when you set this 10, this will be loaded at the first time, because we talked in our last video, when you create the game the first time, so you play the game first time, then in this load game section, when it checks does it a save game exists, it will say no, and then it will create a save game object. And at this point we want set this HighScore here to our save game. That's not necessarily needed, I think, at this point. I think this is not really needed, but let's do it, whatever. And yeah, you can set it, but I think you can skip this part here, because this is just setting this default value what I have here. I have it now, HighScore is now, let's set it to 10, and you save just this 10 HighScore 10 to your save game object, where I set, let's go back fast to the save game object. Here, the save game object where I said the value is not very important, it will be overwritten anyway, but this place is not the real place where it will be overwritten. This is only just the start place where we create and overwrite it. But you will see what I mean. This is not the real place where it will be overwritten. So here you can do this. I think you can skip this part here. That's okay. But then the second step is when you play this again, this one will start again, it will check again, like I said in my last video, and then it will try to load from slot. And we want load now data, because we have this save game object, and perhaps we have saved here data which we want use. For example, we have saved our score there, right? And here we load now this data. And how we load this? First of all, what I need is this one here, this reference save game object, and we created this one. This reference save game object is just this one here in front. This is the reference, which means it access exactly this save game object, and you can see it here. This is this part here. We cast to the save game object. We make here a reference and we use this reference. And with this reference, I can access this SV HighScore, which is my variable in my save game object. So I get this. So, and important is this one is a getter. So what I did here is just, let me show you this step by step instead explaining here this code, because it's easier to see what I do probably. So you get this. Here you don't have to get it. You could make this one because it's already here, but whatever. So this one is the save game object for this one, the reference. Then, then you say, because we are here in the load section, that's why we say get. Get, and what you want get, we have anyway only one variable. It's this SV HighScore. That's what we saved there, and then we set, and that's important. Now, this one, this HighScore, which we created here, like I said, I create this HighScore, I set this integer, and this is the in-game what I want here in game, and that's I set here. You drag this out here, set this, and you set this SV HighScore to your HighScore, what you want to use in this game. And that's the first step, what you can do. And I did this here, you can see it. And load data, let's skip this comment, it's okay now. And here this print string is just again for test purposes. If you need this, if you don't need this, we can see it later. And of course, careful when you make something like that. Let's highlight this, that we have to kick this out later. Let's just set here a color that I know that I have to kick this out later, because in my final project I want not comments and all data which is not necessarily I want not in. So I just mark them so that I know. So this one is okay, and I hope you understand this one. It is just loading what we have saved here in this place. The next place is the start place. I explained this one. I said this is not necessarily needed. Probably not really needed, but I keep this. We can test it without it and then see if this is a makes a problem. So probably we don't need this, because this place will be replaced by another place. This is just a save game, and if you don't use this one here, then the default value of this one will be used, and that will be 0. And if you make this one here, then the default value of this HighScore will be used. That's the only difference here. And the HighScore is set here to 10. That will be set to SV HighScore. And I think that's it. I mean, this score, this HighScore value will be anyway used. So normally that will be anyway used. We will see it in a moment with the test cases. I'm not so sure. So that's not so important. This kind of stuff we test. So the next step is, that was our loading part, right? So when I went back in play, this is my game mode. It starts, loads up, and this is just load check what the save game got. And here, if it's the second time, and this one is just the first time, and like I said, this one will be triggered only one time at the start of the game, or when you start to play it for the first time, and this one will be triggered all time later again when you start over again, and it's important. All right, with that said, let's go one step further, because this was load, and now we want save perhaps. So we go back to the event graph, and you can see we have a save section here. Event end play, and you can see at this event end play I set up here this code here. This one we already had, save game. This one we created here in our last game, last tutorial. It was the save game. There I set the save game. You can see save data here, and yeah, something like that. I'm not sure if I need this one as well, because I replaced this with another system. We will see this one also in a moment. And what we need is, first of all, let's go back to this part. So here, before I can save here anything, I need, of course, compare my score. Where I compare it when I start this one, you can see here is my score. And this score must be compared to this HighScore. And this we make this with a very easy function. And I made this in, where I made this? In gameplay or widget, I'm not sure. I made it in the widget. All right, this is, yeah, my widget is anyhow very big now, but it's okay. So I made here a function which compares the score what you reach. For example, you can see at start this one will be a counter. It goes up, 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 and then we compare this one with this HighScore. So how we make this? Very simple. I made it so, but before I made this score system, I made one more step here. I can see it already. I highlighted here at the event construct. I made a reference to the character that was for any other needs. And now I made another reference. But this time I made a reference to the game mode, because the game mode here should communicate now with this widget blueprint, because I need the game mode HighScore, and I need anything from the game mode. I'm not sure which one, this one or this one. Let's see. You can see, yes, this HighScore here value I created in game mode, and then I have bound this here from game mode to HighScore. But this one you have not. When you follow this tutorial, we have to make this reference here, and this reference is exactly this one here. Oops, not this one. This one here in the graph on top. When we start this event construct, when we construct this script, first we make a character reference, and now we make a game mode reference. And how we do a game mode reference again, I show you this fast here. You right click on it, then you write get game mode. This is just a general game mode, and then you cast it to your game mode. In my case, it is called GM. I have two game modes actually. One is main menu, one is gameplay. I use the gameplay here because that's the game mode which I'm using in this level here. And then that's it. And then you make a reference. You promote this one to a variable and write a variable name. I call this as, oh no, that was already automatically called as gameplay. And yeah, that's just creating a reference to your game mode. So now, what does this mean, creating a reference? It means just now that you can use this reference variable which you created. It's here a get, I drag it in, and now you can access all what your game mode has, for example, on public variables. And I'm interested in this HighScore which I have created here. This game mode here has this variable HighScore, and this HighScore variable was that what I loaded from my SV HighScore, for my save game HighScore. So I loaded this from my save game HighScore to this HighScore, and here I made just a reference that I get this HighScore, and I need this HighScore for one purpose only. And what is that? Again, we switch here when you have created this reference to this designer. You go here to this HighScore section, here to this number, and of course you could make here create a binding. I don't create a binding here because that would create again a function. Instead, I use now this reference like the character reference. I think the character reference we made here with the live. Yes, here we use the live, I think. And here we use now the game mode. So you go here to the game mode, and here is the HighScore. This is the HighScore. And that will be loaded there. So this HighScore is set up, which means when you compile and save, then this HighScore is just loaded but not compared. We have just set the HighScore which we got from here, or which we have on default value. And this one we will check later if we really need this one. All right, so, and now this was the load game. And now, where is the compare function? Because now when I start this one, I want, of course, compare this one with this one as well. So we need to set up a function who is comparing this score, what we right now have, with the HighScore, what is here. That's our job now. Let's do this step. And I do this also in my widget blueprint. I go here to the graph section. And what I do there is I create a function, or do I this? I do it not here actually. Did I replace this? I have changed this a little bit here, and the reason for that is oops, let's see. There was a special reason why I have to change this, because let me see, this should be here. Get all widgets of class ref will be given. Yes, and compare. No, I used it here. Okay. Okay, that's probably not necessarily to create it there. That's even bad. That's actually our score. Ah, that's okay. That's yeah, I made it a little bit too complicated in this case, but it's not too complicated. So what I did is, first of all, we need a compare function. Like I said, when I start this, I need to compare my score with this one, and I create a function for it, a separate function, and the place where the function is, I created here in my widget blueprint. And all time you should think where you create it, so if this is the right place, and like I said, this is a single player, that's not so important. Only you can check later the performance and then change the position. So anyway, I created here the function. So what you do is create a compare function. You go here to the in your widget blueprint, you go here to the function section and press here plus. Then you can call your function what you like. I called it compare our score because I created here our score, which will be, oh, I think I forgot to tell you that you have to create here a variable in the widget blueprint, also an integer, and name it our score. So plus here, create here also a variable, and this one is called our score. What I mean with our score is, so you can see we have here a score. I call this one our score, so the player score. You can call it player score instead our score. And then we have here a high score. This is the high score which we use in game, and then we have this SV score which we use in our save game. So you should differentiate this kind of stuff. That's a little bit thing. So we can call this, I call this our score, but here you can call this player score. The player's score makes probably more sense. Let's change this. I call this player score. Player score. That, because that makes just more sense. And now I have a problem because the player score is used and this is sign. Where was this player score? This one? Yes, I call this here our score. So if you change the name here, then you have to change this one as well. And that was, what was the blueprint? Player live. No, that was game mode. So you select then, if you, after you create it, I think I showed you this also not, sorry. What you do is in widget blueprint, we created now this player score. Set it to an integer, set the default value to 0 after you compiled it. Mine is not compiling because I have already changed one value which I have to set now. Then after you did this one, you go here to the designer, you select now this score. This is our score, with other words the player score, and now you set this one to this player score. And again I used the technique where you go select this one, go to details, go to text, and here where we created this one, and we created this one in S game, not here, we created here, that was created in the widget itself. That's interesting. Then you have direct access here, so, and select here player score. So now it's okay. Now when I compile, there is no more error. So now we have a variable for the player score, which is our score. Then we have a variable for this one, which is called HighScore. That's very important to note, because now we want to use this in the function. We go back to our widget blueprint. Then you go to the function where I said you should press your plus and call it what you like. I called it compare our score. Now it's called player score. Let's change this also, because I use all the time the names which I used. So I find them faster. And I called it now player score. And after you make this one, we will set up this little compare function. And you see it's very simple, this compare function here. So let's make this compare function very fast. It's a very, very simple setup. So what we do is, first of all, the variables which we just created, we need, first of all, the player score. Which what is the player score again? This is this one here in the middle. This is the player score. All right. What I want to do with the player score, I want compare it with what? With the HighScore, which I loaded from my save game. Where is the HighScore? We can't see it because the HighScore was made in my game mode. And that's why I created also this reference. So when you create it here, this reference, we have a reference variable, which we can just use. So that's also no problem. Where's the function? I can here double click on the function. Then you get this reference, it's in the game mode. So okay, I get the get reference. This is this one here. Now I have the game mode where my HighScore is, because I need now what? I need this HighScore here. And this game mode has my HighScore. So what I do is I drag out here and search for HighScore. Careful, don't mix this with your save game HighScore. We need the HighScore, which is in game now in your game mode. So we get this also. This one is a getter because we want the value of it. I'm not interested setting it. I want compare this. And after this one, you want compare this value with this value. This is our score with the HighScore. And if our value is higher than the HighScore, then we set our score to the new HighScore. That's so the goal. And how we make this? Very simple. We drag out here and we need a compare node. Compare means just one of these compare operators. In I use this greater. So only if my score is greater than this HighScore, then I will change something. And this one you can see, when you see this red thing here, it's all time a boolean. Boolean means you need most time a branch. A branch means I check this condition. If the one of this is true, then I do something. If it's false, I do the false something. And then you connect this one here. And now you have to say, okay, if my player score is greater than HighScore, we have to do something, because I want set now, if my score is higher than this HighScore, I set my score to the new HighScore here. That's very easy done. You get your HighScore here again. So let's get this one again. Here's the player score. I make it this. Then this time you get not this HighScore, you get this reference here again. Okay, let's get this one again. But this time you set this HighScore. So from this reference, you just set HighScore and here. And after the condition, I set now my score to the HighScore. So my score becomes the HighScore. And that's only the case when it's true. When this condition says yes, your HighScore was greater, your score was greater than the HighScore. If this says yes, which means yes means you're true, then you are doing this. Then, and if it's false, we do nothing. That's it. And that's our function for our comparison. No more, no less. I did this already here on top. It's the same thing. Yeah, and then you connect this and you write a comment, and I just say here compare our score with HighScore. And yeah, I think you get the idea here. That's it for our function. So important is here, let's delete this so I have not too much code. The next step is, because we need now of course a little bit more steps, which is we go back to our gameplay. In our gameplay I showed you that we loaded here. This was loading. This one here we will test in a moment. This is just comments. This should work already, but what it should not work is where is that again? Yo, let's go back here to the how we save that. I mean, this function what I just created, this compare HighScore and so on. This will just change our score, but we need now, after we changed it, save that. And here is a very easy trick what you can use again, and I'm using this because that's very nice that we can do something like that. And the trick is simply go here to your game mode where we said here is event begin play, right? And then we load all the data, and then here we have event end play, and whatever happens with event end play, if you are quitting, if you are pressing, let's say here, if you are pressing here quit, if you are pressing, let me show you, if you are pressing here quit, or whatever happens when this one, when you quit this one, anyhow, this event will trigger, which means when this one is triggered all time when you quit in whatever happens, then we can call our comparison function and save it. And that's the trick what I'm using. And why will this work is because when you call it here, the comparison function which we made, and then we call after this one anyway the save game data from last video, which means the save game data we have to set up this part here probably. Then this will save all time. Doesn't matter where you quit. That's a very nice and neat way to save all time whatever you have, but not this is only for this little game. Nice. Perhaps you have other games where you don't want this, then you have to find the special places where you won't allow the player to quit. In my case, I allow the player to quit wherever he wants and just compare this save game. So let's do this fast. So what I do here is, this one was that what we had in our last game. The save game will be called the save game. We set up, it saves whatever you want save, and we want save the HighScore. And in my case, I take the HighScore here. Where is this? Here, the HighScore. And I set it now important. You can see this is SV HighScore. SV means the save game HighScore. This is the save game object. Here I save it. That's very nice. And of course I need here again the reference here for the save game object. Have I set this up already? Let me see in event begin play. I think I have this set up anywhere, but I don't know where. That's probably set up anywhere. We did this anywhere. Oh, what I'm talking. I'm stupid. Sorry for that. We set it up here. We will set it up in a moment. So this one, I explain you this one. This one will be set up in a moment. And then we can say use this one, call this SV HighScore, which is in our save game, and then use the HighScore here and save it there. I hope that makes a little bit sense. If not, no worry. This is not too difficult. I explain it only a little bit strange. Anyway, let's go here back fast. And here, this is the right way to explain it. First of all, here in end play, what I do is because I need again something from the widget blueprint, which is far away in another blueprint, I need of course create a reference, and that was this reference here for the save game, which I showed you. I need here this reference. So, and when you need a reference, you have all time to get a reference anyhow. And I made again use one of these widgets, which is I show you fast again here what I did. Oh, come on. So event begin play. Normally you have only this and this. What you do is get all, you know this, probably you know this one here, get all actors of class, but widgets are not actors. So you have to write get all widgets of class. And then you can see we have here widgets. We can get all widgets. This time we get all widgets. And here is with something special. You have to read this in the documentation. I don't know why, but you have to read this. Well, in a moment I say what it is. First of all, select the widget which you want. I want my gameplay widget because here is a value which I want to access. That's why I want this widget here. That's why I make the reference. And it is called here gameplay. I have two. I don't know why I have two. I will delete the other one, but you get the one which you created in your gameplay. So this one should be this widget here, which you have here. And then like the other one, then you get the get copy. This is then the first one here. And now here's something special. We have here this top level only. I don't know why, but if I select this one, it gives me an error. I have to deselect this one. And the worst part is I don't know why I can't start here at debug to see what happens here, at least not in this call. That's very strange. That was a very strange part. So I could not debug this, and I believe, yeah, I said, okay, I have no much time to check this out. I just unchecked this. You can read this one, why we need the lower levels as well, but with lower levels it is working, with higher levels it is not working. And I skipped this part, and I believe it's okay. And I hope it's okay. So with that said, you can create here a right click, again a ref, you can this one promote this to a variable, and then we have our reference that I did, and this is just creating a reference again. All right, I think you get the idea. We creating a reference means just accessing another blueprint, or a widget blueprint in this case. And this means you want to only access another blueprint because you are interested in a variable, or in this case, I'm not interested only in a variable, I'm interested in a function. You can see after I created this reference, I called a function there, this compare function, and that's the trick place here. Instead, instead of calling it in other places, I call it just all time at the end when we quit. Here at this place, normally I could call this also in other places where it would also work, but then you have to call it in many other places as well. For example, I could call it here on game over. Then it will only work when the game is when you are triggering game over. Or you could call it here, this function in on click button quit, but then it will only work when this button quit is triggered. What I mean call it is just we have here this function. You could do something like this one, works also, but the problem here is it will only work here when you call this here, and the same goes for game over. You could use the function here, then it will only work when it is game over. And that's why I call it a nice way and simple way to solve to avoid all these calls in separate places. And this works only with simple games, because I want that it's automatically saved all time when I quit, and I don't care how I quit. And that's why I can use this little trick here. At the end of the game, I call it. And then after I called this one here, this one is setting my HighScore. This HighScore. Only, of course, it is setting only if my HighScore, my player score is indeed higher than the HighScore. If not, it's false and it sets nothing, and it keeps the HighScore what it was. And then important is then here, you can see, not here, end game, we are here. No, not here. Where's the gameplay? Here. Then after this section, we call save game. And this save game is all time called. And here we include now this section. I think this section we already talked. This also, and this was this little color what I used here. I indicated this one we have to set up the, oops, yeah, this was this weird color. And here now what you do is now get this ref object and set this save game, that is again the save game SV. This is the HighScore, right? HighScore in ref web. This is the wrong, sorry, I get the wrong reference. Of course you should get the right reference. And then you can write HighScore, and then you can set the HighScore. So at the end, I set all the time the HighScore to the HighScore here. It is all time called. And if the HighScore is overwritten, then I get the new one. And the HighScore is, where is this here? And then I would set this one. If the HighScore is overwritten by this function here, not by this one, by this one here, then I get the new HighScore with this one. If it's not written, then I get the old, and then the old HighScore is there, still there, and it set the old HighScore here as well. Okay, that was a lot of click, but yeah, that is when you work with functions, you are jumping from one place to another place. That's why I want to avoid functions, but here in this case we need some function that makes our life easier, because yeah, not for presentation. For a presentation it's a little bit not so nice, but for doing it side. So anyway, I hope you get it so far, because now we have to test it. And there was one more step. What was this again? Here, where I said we don't have to. Already forgot it. Where? It was here. All right, here is a step. Okay, this string here. That's here. Perhaps I don't need that, I said. So how we can test it? So we have set up all. Of course, you could test this during the development as well. I tested this already normally, only not this part here, because I'm a little bit confused. Did I need this here at this point? First of all, let's test it. So I have a score of 140, and I quit here and I start. It's still 140 because this was lower. That's nice. And let's try a little bit, not wasting time. Let's do one more step. Right click, show in Explorer, and find your game. This is more mobile game component in my case. Go to your game project, mobile component, and here go to save, not in content. This time go to save, and here is the save game, and just delete this for the first time. And when you delete this, then we know we already talked, and this section should call. This is the event begin play of my game mode, right? Then load game will activate it, and because this save slot is not existing, this part should be called, and then I can check if I need this part or not. And what I do here is just set the HighScore, which is 10, and that's it. And to the SV HighScore, and yeah, we will see if we need. We don't need this because I think we don't need it. So let's test it if this is working. So let's start. We have 10. All right, I quit now. I quit. So if I'm right, now this 10 should be overwritten with the number 29. Okay. Now I quit here. It's 33. It's more than 29. I can quit. And it's now 33. Let's quit a little bit. And now you have to test normally all cases. But I skipped now all cases with this testing here. But normally you make now a test phase where you test all cases and so on. And let's see when I die if this one works too, because 1 and I die, and 20, it's exactly 56. Should it stay 56, play again, it starts. Okay, it is working anyhow. So this one is not needed, I think. I still keep it for a little bit checkup. This one was only for, oops, Control Z. This one I don't need. This was just check for testing. This one testing. And with that said, I think here a question mark. Well, this one is still not perfectly tested, and the game is so far almost finished with the save game, but we have to go on a little bit. So when you can see now I can die. Now you can see I have a high score, and in the next video what I want to do is change these obstacles here. You can see the speed is not changing, and we go, which means I said in one of my videos we need a level system, which means after we can make a counter. For example, we count how many obstacles we spawn, and after, let's say we spawn 5 obstacles, we speed up a little bit so that we will, you can see this one is too easy. We have to speed up. Every 5 obstacles we set the speed of this obstacles perhaps a little bit faster, and then faster and faster, and all time faster, so that the player can't react after around 1.5 minutes, because this is a short game for time breaking on open places like waiting rooms or bus stops and something like that. And one more note here, we could add music, but perhaps I skip this because then I have to set this music I set to the creative point. I will now just add one more part in the basic, in the core system, which is just this level up here, so that it becomes a little bit more difficult. That's it. That's my core system then. So that's in the next video. I hope you understand this so far. And this is a very basic system. It works so far, I think. And of course, this must be tested. Don't forget source control here, perhaps. And later I will anyway migrate this project to the final project and package there and test it there. But not now, because I have less time. Let's write here, finished. What I finished here. Score, HighScore comparison. HighScore comparison. You can write something like what you want. So this is source control, has it, and then you can later submit it to the server. I make this later. Yeah, if you have any questions or any complaints like all time, write it in the comments. And with that said, we will see us in the next video. Like all time, don't give up, have fun, and bye.